Good morning. Today we will start with the topic, the second law of thermodynamics. Up to now we have focused our attention on the first law of thermodynamics, which requires that energy be conserved during a process. In this chapter we introduce the second law of thermodynamics, which asserts that processes occur in a certain direction and that energy has quality as well as quantity. A process cannot take place unless it satisfies both the first and second law of thermodynamics. In this chapter, the thermal energy reservoirs, reversible, irreversible process, heat engine, refrigerator, heat pump are introduced. Various statements of second law are followed by a discussion of perpetual motion machine and thermodynamic temperature scale. The Carnot cycle and the Carnot principle are discussed. Finally, Carnot heat engines, refrigerator and heat pumps are examined. Their performance is also discussed. So we will start from the first topic, that is introduction to second law. First law of thermodynamics, or the conservation of energy principle. To process involved closed and open system. As pointed out repeatedly in those chapters, energy is conserved property and no process is known to have taken place in violation of the first law of thermodynamics. Therefore, it is reasonable to conclude that a process must satisfy the first law to occur. However, as explained here, satisfying the first law alone does not ensure that process will actually take place. It is a common experience that a cup of hot coffee left in a room eventually cools off. So this process satisfies the first law of thermodynamics, since the amount of energy lost by the coffee is equal to the amount gained by the surrounding air. Now let us consider the reverse process, the hot coffee getting even hotter in a cooler room as a result of heat transfer from a room to air. We all know that this process never takes place, yet doing so would not violate the first law as long as the amount of energy lost by air is equal to the amount of gained by the coffee. Means there is some direction that heat will flow from hot coffee to cold environment. Heat can't flow from cold environment to hot coffee. Another example, consider a heating of a room by passage of electric current through a resistor. So this is a resistor, it will dissipate heat to the room. Again, the first law dictates that amount of electric energy supplied to the resistance wire is equal to amount of energy transferred to room air as heat. Now let us attempt to reverse this process. It will come as no surprise that transferring some heat to the wire does not cause an equivalent amount of electric energy to be generated in wires. Means if you transfer heat energy, same amount of heat energy as it is generated by the AC heater, the reverse won't happen, the current won't generate. Finally, consider a paddle wheel mechanism. This example here, where this weight will go down, this paddle will rotate and the heat will be transferred to this fluid. If you do the reverse, by transferring of the heat to these paddles won't lift the weight. So it is clear from these arguments that a process proceeds in a certain direction and not in reverse direction. The first law places no restriction on the direction of process, but satisfying the first law does not ensure that the process can actually occur. Means we are satisfying the first law condition that heat is conserved, means whatever heat paddles are transferring during when your weight will go down to the fluid, the same heat we are transferring in reverse direction, but first law satisfied but does not fulfill, the process won't happen. Means by supplying heat to these paddles won't lift the weight. So this inadequacy of the first law is identified whether a process can take place is remedied by introducing another general principle which is called second law of thermodynamics. We should later in this chapter discuss the reverse process about violate. We should later in this chapter that the reverse process discussion about violate the second law of thermodynamics. This violation is easily detected with the help of property called entropy. A process cannot occur unless it satisfies both first and second law of thermodynamics. So the second law defines that the process will occur in one direction. The second law of thermodynamics is also used in determining the theoretical limits for the performance of commonly used engineering systems such as heat engine, refrigerator, as well as predicting the degree of complication of chemical reactions. We will start with the thermal energy and reservoirs now. So in development of a second law of thermodynamics, it is very convenient to have a hypothetical body with a relatively large thermal capacity that can supply or absorb finite amounts of heat without undergoing any change in temperature. Such a body is called thermal energy reservoir. River, large river, lake and atmosphere we consider as a thermal energy reservoir. In practice, large bodies of water such as oceans, lakes and river as well as atmosphere air can be modeled accurately as thermal energy reservoir because of their large energy storage capabilities due to thermal masses. The atmosphere, for example, does not warm up as a result of heat losses from residual building in winter. This is to be noted that the temperature of this reservoir should be constant, means their temperature won't get affected if how much amount of heat you will dump into the atmosphere or how much amount of heat you will take from atmosphere. Their temperature won't get decrease, won't change. Likewise, megajoules of waste energy dumped into large rivers by power plants do not cause any significant change in water temperature. Two-phase system can be modeled as a reservoir also, since it can absorb and release large quantities of heat while remaining at constant pressure. Another familiar example of thermal energy reservoir is the industrial furnace. The temperature of most furnaces are carefully controlled and they are capable of supplying large quantities of thermal energy as heat without having, you can say, temperature change or in isothermal manner. A body does not actually have to be very large to be considered as a reservoir. Any physical body whose thermal energy capacity is large related to the amount of energy it supplies or absorbs can be modeled as one. The air in room, for example, can be treated as a reservoir in the analysis of the heat dissipation from a TV set in room, since the amount of heat transfer from TV set does not raise the room temperature. So a reservoir that supplies energy in the form of heat is called a source, that is thermal energy source, and one that absorbs energy in the form of heat is called sink, that is thermal energy sink. Thermal energy reservoirs are often referred to as heat reservoirs since they supply or absorb energy in the form of heat. Heat engines, as pointed out earlier, work can easily be converted to other forms of energy, but converting other forms of energy to work is not that easy. The mechanical work done by shaft shown, for example, is first converted to internal energy of water. In this figure you can see this shaft rotate, so it has mechanical work. So whatever the mechanical work shaft will do, this energy may leave the water as heat. We know from experience that any attempt to reverse this process will fail. That is, transferring heat to water does not cause the shaft to rotate. So heat engine differ considerably from one another, but all can characterize by following. They receive heat from high temperature source, solar energy, oil furnace, nuclear reactor. They convert part of this heat to work. They reject the remaining waste heat to the low temperature sink. They operate in a cycle. So part of heat received by a heat engine is converted to work while the rest is rejected to a sink. So this is your heat engine. It will accept heat at high temperature source and it will reject some amount of heat to low temperature sink, and difference of this inlet and outlet heat will convert into work. Heat engines are other cyclic device usually involved to fluid to and from which heat is transferred while undergoing a cycle. This is fluid called working fluid. The term heat engine is often used in broader sense to include work producing devices that do not operate in a thermodynamic cycle. Engines that involve internal combustion such as gas turbine and car engine fall in this category. The work producing device that best fits into definition of heat engine is steam power plant, which is an external combustion engine. That is, combustion takes place outside the engine and thermal energy released during this process is transferred to the steam as heat. The schematic of basic steam power plant is shown in figure. This is rather simplified diagram. In this figure, you can see here we have four components: pump, boiler, turbine, condenser. Pump is power consuming device. Turbine is power producing device. In the boiler we will transfer heat. Condenser will reject some amount of heat to the environment, such as atmosphere, and it will change the phase of steam into liquid again, which will be further pumped back to boiler. So Q in amount of heat supplied to steam in boiler from high temperature source, furnace. Q out amount of heat rejected from steam in condenser to a low temperature sink. W out amount of work delivered by steam as it expands in turbine. W in amount of work required to compress water to boiler pressure. So work net output is equal to work out minus work in. Because this is a cyclic process, it means the internal, whatever the water at inlet, after the complete cycle, the same condition is the of working fluid. It means internal energy of the fluid will remain same. So if internal energy is same, it means your work net output is equal to Q in minus Q out. It can be analyzed as a closed system. Recall that for a closed system undergoing a cycle, the change in internal energy is zero, and therefore the net work output of the system is equal to the net heat transfer to the system. Thermal efficiency, this is another concept, because if there is a cycle, definitely there is a efficiency related with the cycle. You can see here, in this case we have two engines. One is taking 100 kJ of heat, waste 80 kJ of heat, and net output is 20. In the second case, net work output is 30. So that is only part of heat transfer to the heat engine is converted to work. The fraction of heat input that is converted to net work output is measure of performance of heat engine and is called thermal efficiency. For heat engines, the desired output is the net work output and the required input is the amount of heat supplied to the working fluid. Then the thermal efficiency of heat engine can be expressed as thermal efficiency is equal to net work output divided by total heat input. Cyclic devices of practical interest such as heat engines, refrigerators and heat pumps. Cyclic devices of practical interest such as heat engines, refrigerators and heat pumps operate between high temperature medium or reservoir at temperature TH and a low temperature medium or reservoir at temperature TL to bring uniformity to the treatment of heat engines, refrigerators and heat pumps. We define these two quantities. QH, magnitude of heat transfer between the cyclic devices and the high temperature medium at TH. QL, magnitude of heat transfer between the cyclic device and the low temperature medium at TL. So notice that both QL and QH are defined as magnitudes and therefore are positive quantities. The direction of QH and QL is easily determined by inspection. Then the net work output and thermal efficiency relations for heat engine can be also expressed as, so net work output is equal to QH minus QL. So efficiency thermal is equal to work net divided by heat supplied. So the thermal efficiency of heat engine is always less than unity since both QL and QH are defined as positive quantity. This is positive, this is positive. So overall efficiency is always less than 1. Even the most efficient heat engines reject almost 1/2 of the energy they received as waste heat. So this is example. 100 megajoule of energy is given. Only 50 megajoule is converted to work. Rest is wasted. The thermal efficiency of work producing devices are relatively low. Ordinary spark ignition automobile engines have a thermal efficiency of 25%. That is, an automobile engine converts about 25% of chemical energy of gasoline into mechanical work. The number is 40% for diesel engines. So this is about heat engine like this channel, subscribe, and thank you for watching this video.